Sheriff's Office has received over 200 tips in the search for missing 6-year-old Adji. A task force of investigators from the local Sheriff's Office, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and the FBI are all assisting in the investigation into what happened to the little boy.
Once is hasty, the second time is good, the third time you're probably done. But we've done 5 searches in some of these areas.
The parents have totally been cleared. How are they holding up?
Nancy, the family obviously is devastated, as any family would be. The grandmother was the one actually looking after the boy when he was playing out in the front yard.
Nearly 1,500 people have searched 216 square miles for the boy, who was last seen playing with friends just outside his grandmother's home.
The search is not over, and it's just changing its method of operation. When we search the ground, now we need to search information.
We are taking your calls about 6-year-old Adji Desir. Straight out to the lines. Gina, Missouri. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
Hi, I was wondering, the grandma was watching the children, or the child, and I don't understand why she didn't have the door open, or she didn't hear that the children weren't around any longer, and why she didn't check when she didn't hear the kids playing any longer.
To Sergeant Ken Becker, what exactly was her mode of checking on Adji?
Well, Adji, like I said, he had been playing around Farm Workers Village with a group of kids all day. After dinner, he was playing right in his front yard in the cul-de-sac with a group of kids that were from Farm Workers Village, and she would periodically look out the window or open the door and look out to make sure that Adji was still there.
Sergeant, law enforcement has done so much to find this little boy. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, we searched for a week straight for him, checking anywhere possible. We've continued the search, trying to come up with any idea we can to generate new leads. You know, we've done stuff with the mailing from the National Center to mail 75 million flyers out around the country, hoping that somebody will see the photograph and recognize and remember seeing Adji somewhere. You know, and it's a constant effort to think of new ways to generate new leads to try to bring Adji home.
Back to the lines. Nicole in New York. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
Well, I'm just wondering, since there's absolutely no leads to go on in this case, is this a cesspooled area? And given the location, has anybody checked the neighboring land to see if anybody had any recent cesspool work? Could he have sunk into the ground? Because I know it does happen. I mean, I just can't imagine how he could just disappear and have no leads. Has that been looked at or surveyed?
Good question. What do we know, Jane Casares?
Pools, well, we know there's a lot of agriculture, as we talked about, the alligators, the panthers, the warthogs that are there. Remember, this is an agricultural community. It is a lot of immigrants that are in this community, and the triangle of trust is so important because they believe someone may be a documented or undocumented immigrant that knows information but doesn't have the trust to come forward to law enforcement.
You know, that's a good point. What about it, Sergeant Becker?
It is a migrant area. You know, we, as the Sheriff's Office, have been working for a number of years to convey to the community that we can be trusted and that they can trust law enforcement. But obviously, if people from different countries and communities grow up with a lack of trust for law enforcement, it's going to take a number of years to build that trust. But we are continuing to do it in hopes that it'll pay off in the long run.
Kim in Florida. Hi, Kim. What's your question, dear?
Hi, Nancy. My question actually has been answered by the sergeant. Specifically, I live in a small town 30 miles from Immokalee in a town, Everglades City, and this is the first that I'm hearing of this little boy missing, and I'm only 30 miles from there. But hearing, you know, the sergeant talk about all the flyers that have been sent out, my question is, why are there no flyers on Alligator Alley now, which is really the only road from Immokalee, from 29 that they can get on? I have never seen a flyer about the boy missing, and I'm just trying to understand why.
Good question. Sergeant Ken Becker, what about Alligator Alley?
Well, early on in the investigation, we had flyers made up. We distributed them on the East Coast, all areas around South Florida. So obviously on Alligator Alley, the only things along there would be the facilities where someone can stop, the rest areas, and all those areas were posted with flyers.
We are taking your calls live. I want to go back to Rory O'Neill with Westwood One Radio. The area there, how close is his home, his grandmother's home anyway, to, for instance, swampy area with possibly crocodiles or gators in it?
Well, right. It is, as the sergeant mentioned a short time ago, it is just alongside the Everglades. There is all sorts of wildlife that could be in that area. And that's really one of the things that complicates this case. You were talking a few minutes ago about the California case. Look at what one piece of evidence a tire track can do and what law enforcement can do with a simple tire track. In this case, they don't even have that one kind of clue to go on. This really is the case of a child literally disappearing. And they don't know if he wandered off into the swamp. They don't know if someone came along and abducted him. So they really were working from ground zero and have not been able to make a lot of traction, except for perhaps eliminating members of the family as a suspect in the case.
Out to the lines, Florence in Louisiana. Hi, Florence.
Hi, Florence. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, dear. Thank you for calling in. What's your question?
Listen, Nancy, I watch you all the time, and I've never heard this question asked. He is out there playing with a group of children. What is the ages of the boys or girls if they were 10, 11, and 12? Because we've heard of older children hurting younger children that are disabled. And I was wondering if any of those children have been interviewed or a lie detector taken.
You know, Florence in Louisiana, that's an excellent question. What about it, Sergeant Becker?
The time after dinner when Adji was out playing, we were informed that the kids he were playing with was around the age of about 7 to 9 years old. But during the day, there were a number of kids in Farm Workers Village that were hanging around with each other and playing. Down here, we have a children's advocacy center, so we had a child specialist come out to Immokalee with us. We set up an interview room, and we used the child specialist to interview all of the children that had any contact with Adji that day to find out what details and what information that they had in the case around Adji and different areas he had been throughout the day.
I know, Sergeant Becker, that your force does not want to give up on Adji. What, if any, are the plans to go forward at this juncture in the search for Adji?
Well, like I said, it's a continuous investigation. We're constantly brainstorming of new ways to generate new leads. Like had been mentioned earlier, we came out with the Triangle of Trust poster to distribute through Farm Workers Village and through all the businesses in Immokalee on the 2-year anniversary, hoping that people in Farm Workers Village would come forward, or somebody in the Immokalee area that had information would come forward.
What about it, Mark Class? What can they do now?
Well, you know, the posters that they've distributed are in multiple languages. They're in Creole, they're in Spanish, they're in English. They've also produced a video that's gone onto the various social networking sites. And I think with 500 profiles on MySpace, on Facebook alone, that can reach an awful lot of people. Hopefully it could make a difference.
They haven't mentioned tonight if polygraphs were given to the grandmother, the stepfather, or the mother. Now, I don't remember ever hearing that they did when this was first aired. I don't know if my thoughts back then are the same as my feelings now, but somehow I feel the stepfather's involved in this.